The cultural differences in American cities and highways have always been apparent, with different histories and geographies contributing to development processes. I mean, look at a city like Reno, Nevada, with its newer suburban expansion and car-oriented downtown, compared to somewhere like Boston, Massachusetts, which has a much more forested suburban growth and a walkable downtown. So that proves the differences, but one of the areas where this is apparent is in the southern U.S., which has a history characterized by plantation farming and a less urban economy that relied a lot on slavery. Now, sure, this was stopped by a certain war, but it's still translated to current development tactics. One of these tactics seen present day is the idea of a ring road around cities and towns, seen in this region of the US more than anywhere else, and there's a few major reasons for this, which I'll talk about today. Before this video starts though, please consider subscribing to the channel. We make geography content like this every week, and I'm still trying to grow the channel, so if you appreciate the content and want to help me out, subscribing is a really helpful way to do that. Thank you. So sure, beltways are seen all over the US. You might see completed beltways in Midwestern cities like Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Columbus, or St. Louis, all of which are important, and those are just the complete beltways, with a lot of other cities having partial beltways like Chicago with I-294 or Boston with 495. It's an idea seen across the country, but in the South, there's some pretty specific ideas that I'm talking about here. Now, first of all, their major cities very commonly have a beltway like the ones I mentioned before. Houston has a couple large beltways, including the Sam Houston Tollway, which is the largest fully limited access beltway in the country. Atlanta has the Perimeter, known for its traffic conditions, and it's another one of America's largest beltways. Up in North Carolina, they're building new beltways all up the Shaboozey. Charlotte's Beltway was finished in 2015, the Greensboro Beltway was finished just back in 2023, Raleigh's Beltway is currently being built, they just started on Winston-Salem's, and Fayetteville is nearly finished as well. I mean, they're really just going for it over there. Pretty soon they're going to be building a Kitty Hawk Beltway on the Outer Banks. I also like Athens, Georgia's Beltway. It's fully limited access, even though it's for a much smaller city. But my favorite part is up in the northeast corner, where there's this interchange and the connection to the east looks a bit weird. Well, a Georgia Department of Transportation office is right there, so I'm imagining two possibilities. Either they wanted to expand this freeway farther east, but the DOT was like, nah, we don't want to move our office. Or they got an entire connection to the Beltway just for themselves because they wanted it. It's probably neither of those, but it's funny to think about anyways. So as I was saying, basically every major southern large city has a limited access freeway Beltway, but that's not the exact thing I want to focus on. The real development tactic I'm thinking about is small ring roads. Yes, in this case they're commonly called ring roads that pass around small southern cities. This can also be seen with partial ring roads known as bypasses that basically just stretch around most cities between like 15,000 and 100,000 residents. They're characterized by partial access, meaning in most cases they can be divided, but they have surface intersections, and then maybe an interchange somewhere when possible. These are seen all over the Bible Belt, but a few areas where they're super common are in southeast Alabama with cities like Dothan, Enterprise, and partially around Elba and Opp. Then also in eastern Texas, with everyone and their mother building a beltway or partial beltway in cities like Carthage, Lufkin, Palestine, Athens, and Nacogdoches. So why do these cities have this? Well, it's basically a combination of a few things, from historical factors to current ideologies. So let's go over it. The first one I want to go over brings us to the cultural factors of southern downtowns. A lot of the time, they're characterized by historic 1800s architecture with thin streets lined with brick buildings. This also comes with a central plaza, sometimes centered around a courthouse. Using Carthage, Texas as an example, they have the town square, and then these 4 one-way streets forming a traffic circle around it. If you think about the logistics of this, it's incredibly unfriendly to commercial traffic like large semi-trucks, and they can't just get through the downtown regions that easily. And otherwise, through traffic can get bad in these areas that aren't fit for it. So this same problem sprung up in pretty much every single downtown in these areas. So they made the decision to build these bypasses to carry through traffic, and especially large semis. And the lengths they'll go for this is pretty crazy. Monticello, Georgia has a perimeter road that takes you way out of the way, adding a quick 4 minutes onto your drive just to go around that cute little town square. Now, with cities built more along railroads, like the previously mentioned Dothan, for example, they don't have that downtown square, but there's still a large bypass known as the Circle by locals. And that brings us to the next reason, which might be more boring, but has had a large impact on these cities' designs, and that's simply suburban sprawl. The regions of the South that I'm referring to are all parts of the Sun Belt. This region industrialized and exploded in population much later than the Northeast, meaning the design tactics used are more modern. In other words, sprawl. Beltways were designed to take traffic out of downtowns and prepare for future suburban growth. And this idea is another modern one that originated around the 1950s because of sprawl. So of course we end up seeing it in the South. Car-centric living ended up with lots of cross-country highways that carry a ton of traffic, especially with 4-lane divided highways that were forced to bypass these downtown areas. So that's one reason you see it in some of the fastest growing regions. I'll direct your attention to Texas again, which has some sort of bypass or ring road in nearly every city, big or small. I can just pick a city, let's say Henderson, and look at its expansion. Main and Marshall Street used to be the main route used through the city, but with growth and the building of US 79, they routed it around the city. And this has just happened over and over again in these southern cities, much more than in the Northeast, Midwest, or even West, which I haven't mentioned yet. Out there, nobody lives in the rural regions around cities, and almost the entire expansion process included car-oriented streets. So there's no need for a bypass around Ely, Nevada. It's doing A-okay with Altman Street, which is a nice 61 feet wide. The final important thing that has to be mentioned as a result of these southern ring roads is that ring roads create new development. So a lot of the time they create a new problem by solving the old one. Specifically with the small towns, I mentioned that they're partial access with a lot of surface intersections and easy access points. So even though they were created to bypass the city, that's where the new traffic is. So companies like fast food chains, grocery stores, and car dealerships will set up shop right on the routes, which can turn them into chaotic roads that are more annoying to drive on than real downtown streets. It's just something that happens when you have so many access points, and it's not like there's a written rule that bypasses have to be used purely for the bypassing of cities. So yeah, it ends up just speeding up the process that it was built to solve. As I said before, beltways are an idea used across the country, and I've always found it to be a fascinating design tactic. But the South has gone from a historic, rural area into a new era of cars and good old suburban growth. So this is one of the biggest things that has come from it. And realistically, what are they supposed to do? People don't want these massive stroads, or even worse, freeways in downtowns, and push for them to be built outside of the urban area. But now here we are, and there are still problems. It's almost like none of it can ever be solved. Thanks for watching. Thank you to the members this week: Colonel Potter, Eric Hare, James Carmack, Third JC17, Cedric Zhang, Jerome McCall, The Baked Fruit, Andres Quintero, Jesse Cook, Lufty Harcher, Lady Nightingale, Jalen Rigo, The Autistic City Skylines Fan, Richard Law, Jake Huffs, Alexander Lichko, Laura Halliday, The Road Dude, Charles Watson, Aiden Kyles, Somnam Woods, The Happy Hodag, Reginald Wilkerson, Grant Dickerson, Julius Landry, Doug R, Midwest Railfan, DS, Richard Horwell, Mick Kastner, D, Stephen Phillips, CJ Brick, Big Pasty, Resident Contrarian, Haas of the Wolf, Bunny, Brock Sanders, Stephen Priestman, SB Wilder, Florida Jake, Alex Williams, Mickey Tamartinoff, Kurt Ainsley, KMS162, Bryson, Rosebud 4, Darkbird, Wolfling 73, Snyder Schwein, Benjamin Writings, and Ryan Devins. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it, especially the people that have been a member for 36 months, 32. Ryan Devins, Benjamin Whiting, you guys have been awesome for the channel. If you want to become a member, the link is down in the description below. All of this money goes straight into my savings, so if you want to help me out as a person, this is the best way to do it. I really appreciate it. Thank you all so much.